October 1st, 2015, a mass shooting occurred at the Umpqua Community College school campus located in Roseburg, Oregon. 10 people, including the gunman, who was a UCC student, were killed and 9 others were wounded, with 2 critically injured. The incident began around 10:40 a.m. when officers received reports of a shooting on the campus. The shootings took place in the suspect's English class. Shortly after the shootings, the shooter, a 26-year-old male, was killed during a firefight with police. The media has released the shooter's name, but I'm not going to mention it here. He sought infamy and notoriety, and I would like the focus of this video to be on the victims, not on the perpetrator. First, I'd like to talk a little bit about where this happened. Umpqua Community College is a community college located approximately 6 miles north of Roseburg, Oregon, in the United States. The college has 16 campus buildings located on 100 acres bordering the North Umpqua River. About 3,300 full-time students and 16,000 part-time students attend UCC. The first college courses were offered in 1961. Classes were first held in rented facilities in Roseburg. The cost was $5 per term and $11 per credit. The land for the campus, 98.5 acres of pasture land along a bend in the North Umpqua River, was donated by Elton and Ruth Jackson. The board accepted the site in February of 1965. College construction was funded by a serial levy passed in May of 1965 and a bond issue passed in 1968. Additional financing came from interest earnings, state funding, and federal grants. Classes were first held on Phase 1 of the new campus in the fall of 1967. I was watching The Young and the Restless that morning when the show was interrupted by a special news report. At first I was annoyed by the interruption, but my annoyance gave way to shock and disbelief when the reporter said there was a mass shooting in Roseburg, Oregon. I live in Oregon, approximately 70 miles south of Roseburg. I visited the city many times over the years. My grandparents used to take me to the Tom Tom restaurant to eat there before we continued our way to the coast. I always thought that was a funny name for a restaurant, Tom Tom. They also have Veterans Affairs buildings there, so my dad sometimes goes there for medical treatment. And years ago, my stepsister's grandparents used to live in Sutherland, so I have many fond memories of being in the area. I'm still trying to process what happened. It's been a couple of days since the shootings, and it still just doesn't seem real. All of the other mass shootings in schools I've read about in the news over the years have occurred in the Midwest or the East Coast. Columbine, Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook, and countless others have been shocking and painful to read about, of course, but until now, I've never had any sort of personal stake in the violence. Personally, I thought Oregon was immune to such wicked acts. Oregon is mostly farmland, lots of green pastures and rugged mountains. Our population is growing, however, and the people are becoming more diverse. That's not to say that Oregon isn't a violent place. There are gangs and a growing number of homeless people who've made the inmate population in Oregon's prisons swell quite a bit. Since the UCC shooting, I've been doing research about mass shootings in Oregon. I was shocked to learn that there have been several mass shootings over the years. The first modern-day mass shooting in our state occurred on May 7, 1981. A 25-year-old man killed 4 people and wounded 19 inside the Museum Tavern in Oregon City. In September 1996, a man shot and injured 4 people at Portland's downtown Scientology Celebrity Center. The gunfire that broke out inside Thurston High School in Springfield, Oregon in May of 1998 was known as the deadliest school shooting in the United States until the Columbine High School shooting 1 year later, in 1999. The suspect in those murders, a 15-year-old boy, was sentenced to prison for over 100 years for the murder of his parents and 2 Thurston High School students and injuries to 25 other people. In another Roseburg shooting, a judge found a man guilty of trying to kill a schoolmate at Roseburg High School in February of 2006. The victim, who was 16 years old at the time, was shot in the back 4 times with hollow point bullets from a semi-automatic pistol. It was the first school shooting in Oregon since the one at Thurston. In January of 2010, 2 Clackamas High School students on their way to a dance were shot and killed in front of 2 downtown Portland night spots. 7 other people were also injured when the 24-year-old shooter from Salem opened fire. 2 weeks before Christmas in 2012, a gunman opened fire inside a busy Clackamas Town Center shopping center. The shooter shot and killed 2 people and injured a third before turning the gun on himself. A high school freshman killed his 14-year-old classmate in the boys' locker room at Reynolds High School in Troutdale on June 10, 2014. He then shot himself dead. I'd like to point out that the suspects whose identities I've withheld for a reason are all young. Most were teenagers, in fact. Yeah, I have no desire to glorify these bastards. So, if you want to find out their names, just use the internet. It's pretty easy to do. The UCC shooter is reported to be 26 years old. I've learned that the shooter was born in England, but he moved to California and lived there as a child. He moved to Oregon in 2013. He's been described as a loner. He liked to wear the same clothing every day, which consisted of a white t-shirt and combat boots. While the shooter lived in Torrance, California, he attended and graduated from a high school that specialized in helping teens with emotional problems and learning disabilities. It has been revealed that the shooter was an Army boot camp dropout who studied mass shootings before becoming one himself. A day after the rampage, authorities said the suspect wore a flak jacket and brought at least 6 guns and 5 ammunition magazines to the school. Investigators found another 7 guns at the apartment he shared with his mother. Some of the weapons were military grade, but all of them were purchased legally. According to the suspect's social media profiles, he was fascinated by the Irish Republican Army and frustrated by traditional organized religion. He followed other shootings and made comments about the WDBJ murders in Roanoke, Virginia, in which a former employee killed a television reporter and her cameraman live on the air. He noted how nobody knew who the culprit was in that case until he committed murder and became a national sensation. At this point, I'd like to mention the names of the 9 victims who range in age 18 to 67 from the UCC, Umpqua Community College. Lucero, and I'm sorry if I butcher these names, I'm going to try the best I can to get through them. Lucero Alceres, age 19. Traven Taylor Anspach, age 20. Rebecca Ann Carnes, age 18. Quinn Glenn Cooper, age 18. Kim Saltmarch Dietz, age 59. Lucas Eibel, age 18. Jason Dale Johnson, age 34. Lawrence Levine, 67. He was the teacher of the English class. Serena Dawn Moore, age 44. Now, one of the survivors, an Army veteran named Chris Mintz, fought with the gunman. He was shot 7 times. His family members said the 30-year-old jumped into action to save the lives of people in his classroom. According to family members, he told them he tried to block the door to keep the gunman from coming in. He was shot multiple times. The response from the President of the United States has been received with criticism, and the American people and the residents of Roseburg, Oregon, are left feeling incredulous and, frankly, very upset. Here are some highlights from the speech he delivered at a press conference following the shooting. Our thoughts and prayers are not enough, and voters should demand changes to the nation's gun laws. That's quoted from Barack Obama. He spoke of common sense legislation aimed at preventing gun violence, and he mocked opponents of past initiatives he's pushed. Each time this happens, he says, I'm going to bring this up, Obama said during emotional remarks in the White House press room. Each time this happens, I'm going to say that we can actually do something about it, but we're going to have to change our laws. Obama noted that he's been to Roseburg, Oregon, where the shooting took place, and there are really good people there, he says, who are the latest victims of gun violence. Somehow, this has become routine, Obama said. The reporting is routine. My response here at this podium ends up being routine. We've become numb to this. Throughout his presidency, especially after the shootings, Obama has called for legislation to stop gun violence, including enhanced background checks, an assault weapons ban, and improved mental health programs. On this occasion, the president said, it cannot be this easy for somebody who wants to inflict harm to get his or her hands on a gun. As he echoed those calls in the wake of the Oregon shooting, Obama predicted that statements of opposition from gun rights groups were already being written. Many of those opponents will accuse him of politicizing tragic shootings, the president said. Well, this is something we should politicize, Obama said. It is relevant to our common life together, to the body politic. He later said, this is a political choice that we make to allow this to happen every few months in America. Other countries have mental health issues, but none have the kind of gun violence the United States does, Obama said. The president mocked opponents of gun control legislation, including those who say the solution is more guns or fewer safety laws. Does anybody really believe that? Obama said. Given the frequency of mass shootings, Obama said people should demand action at the federal and state levels and make it an issue at election time. He also said lawful gun owners should question whether gun rights organizations are truly representing their views when it comes to efforts to prevent violence. I hope and pray that I don't have to come out again during my tenure as president to offer my condolences to families in these circumstances, Obama said. But based on my experience as president, I can't guarantee that, and that's terrible to say. And it can change. Now, I live in Oregon too, and I was thrown off by the president's remarks. He stopped short of wagging his finger and saying, I told you so, nya 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 nya. I hope nobody's buying into the bullshit that's spewing out of his mouth. He came across as cold-hearted and stubborn. I agree that he doesn't care about these shootings. He just hops on his jet and flies to each location, chomping at the bit to unleash his anti-gun agenda to the devastated masses, who are only looking to him for morale, some kind words, and most importantly, some hope. He twists it to his advantage, though, and I fear that his ignorant words will resonate with America's youth. I'm incredulous that the President of the United States could be so callous. 9 people were murdered. Their lives were important. They were trying to better themselves so they could make more worthwhile contributions to society. Barack Obama wants to gloss over that and only focus on how evil guns are. Anyway, I guess I'm a little angry too. But just to be clear, my anger is equally divided between the horrible person who did this and the horrible president who yearns to trot out his "we need more gun control" spiel every time a gun is used to take lives in America. As an Oregonian, I am heartbroken by this tragedy. I'm seeing a disturbing trend where troubled young men turn to extraordinary violence to solve their problems. In my opinion, we must not focus on guns, but on the problem itself, that there are a lot of mentally ill people in the United States. The government will continue to deny that mental illness is prevalent in this country, But as long as they continue to lie to the public and to themselves, our nation will continue to suffer the consequences of their ignorance. Well, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time.